We have a very active pattern to break down today, including a significant severe weather outbreak that just occurred, a short-term pattern shift, and signals that the atmosphere may reload again later this week. I'm Caden from Inside the Vortex. Now, before we get into the forecast, we need to take a closer look at what happened last night, because this was a significant severe weather event, especially in terms of tornadoes. Preliminary data suggests that we saw over 30 tornadoes across parts of the Midwest and the Plains. That alone puts us in the category of a higher end outbreak, especially considering how concentrated some of the activity was. When you look at some of the damage coming in, it really starts to tell the story. In the Franklin, Wisconsin area, there are reports that a barn essentially was leveled. The structure appears to have been heavily compromised, and that kind of damage aligns with the rating of an intense tornado, although we'll need official survey results to confirm the exact findings. We're also seeing widespread tree damage in some of the harder hit areas. In one location, entire sections of forest were knocked down, with only a few trees left standing. This suggests very intense localized wind fields from either tornadoes or embedded rear flank downdrafts within supercells. These damage indicators line up well with what we have been seeing on radar last night. Strong, persistent rotation, multiple supercell structures, and an environment that was highly supportive of tornadic development. So overall, this wasn't just a high number of reports, this was a structurally significant event with real impacts on the ground. This event was driven by a classic setup: strong mid-level flow, ample low-level shear, and a favorable thermodynamic environment ahead of a deep surface low. Now, as we transition into today, the severe weather threat is still persistent, but it is much more limited in both capacity and intensity. As we move into today, the primary severe weather risk shifts eastward into the Ohio Valley. The overall environment is less supportive compared to yesterday, but still sufficient for organized convection. We're looking at a low-level severe weather threat, with the main hazards being damaging winds and straight line winds to the 50 to 70 mile per hour range. There's also enough residual shear and instability for isolated severe hail and perhaps a brief tornado, especially across portions of northeast Ohio into western Pennsylvania. Now, in terms of timing, initiation should occur early to mid-afternoon, roughly around 18Z, with peak intensity expected between 20Z and 23Z. Storms will likely weaken as they progress farther into the northeast later this evening as instability diminishes. Now, behind this system, we're going to see a notable pattern transition. A cooler and more stable air mass will evect into the Midwest and Great Lakes region as the upper trough lifts out. At the same time, mid-level ridging will begin to build across the central United States. This will effectively suppress widespread convective activity and bring a relative lull to severe weather from roughly Saturday through Thursday. Now, this is a direct result of reduced large-scale ascent and more stable thermodynamic profile. However, this quieter period does not live very long. Attention then turns to a developing system along the west coast by midweek. Guidance shows a large upper-level low approaching the Pacific Northwest, with the key uncertainty revolving around how the system evolves as it moves more inland. Specifically, the timing and structure of the trough as it interacts with the Rockies will determine the extent of downstream severe weather potential. Current model trends to suggest a more progressive solution, where the system partially ejects into the plains rather than stalling or fully shearing out. This would support renewed Lee psychologists and the return of organized severe weather by Wednesday into Thursday. By Thursday, however, there is an increasing confidence in a more organized setup across portions of the central and northeastern plains into the Midwest, with sufficient shear, moisture return, and instability supporting all severe hazards, including tornadoes. Depending on how quickly the system translates eastward, this threat could persist into Friday across a broader portion of the plains and the Midwest. So, to summarize, we are transitioning out of a high-end severe weather event, moving into a brief period of relative stability, and then potentially back into an active pattern as we head into the later part of the week. We'll continue to refine the details as newer data comes in, especially regarding the evolution of that midweek system. As for now, that's it. Stay weather aware and stay safe.